Okay, second video, we are trying to explain how the filter extensions was made from here, all of this, right? So we are going to clear this. Okay, I'll leave this on for reference purposes. Okay, so we'll come here. We have been able to create our extension header section. All right, now we're going to go back to our code right here. We're done with the header, so we can close it up. Come down here and we're going to create a section. So just write section dot filter. We'll call this a filter block. So section dot filter block is going to create a section element or a section tag, and it's going to assign a class of filter block to that section. So this is more like a shortcut. So press enter. So you can see we have created our class for this section. So again, we have two components, right? We have two components. On the left, we have extensions list, and on the right, we have a group of what? Filter actions. When we click on active, something happens. We click on all, something happens. We click on inactive, something happens, right? So these are what actions that we're going to add to our project. So on the left, we have a text, and on the right, we have a group of what? Buttons. So let's come here. So we said on the left we have H2, what we call extensions list, right? And on the right we have a group. Okay, we are not going to write them individually. We need a container for them. We're going to need a what? A container for them. So we have, to explain why we need a container, let me just create button. So we have btn1. For the three buttons, we have btn1, btn2, btn3, right? Let's see what this looks like. So you can see the btn buttons are showing up side by side because they are inline elements. They are not block elements like the section elements, like the h2 elements, like the paragraph tag, like the article tag and all that. So button elements are also what? They are inline elements. Another inline element we have is the anchor tag. Okay, so I'll just name this button 1. The same thing happens. Okay, button 2 and button 3. Okay, you can see the same thing happened over here. They are all side by side, right? So let us do this. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. And yeah, back to our buttons. So now we have in our sample here, we have extensions to the left, and we have all active and inactive to the what? Right. So let's go to our code. Sorry. Oh god. Okay. So great. So moving on, how do we align this to the left, extensions list to the left, and the buttons to the what? Right. Like I've explained before, we're going to use the what? Display of flex. So before we get there, let's style our filter block. So we'll copy this. To apply styling to a class, we are going to give it a dot and paste our what? And write down our class name. So moving on, we want the filter block to take the width of 100%. So automatically, because it's a block element, it already takes the width of 100%. But I like to specify my width. Then we're also going to give it a height again of 100 pixels. Now, take note of what will happen. The red container is going to increase. Remember I said the container is taking up the height of its content. Okay, so 100 pixels now is going to what? Increase. Awesome. So this red portion is the height of our what? Filter block. So let's give it a background color so that we see what we're working with. And I like this color, aqua. Great. So we have the aqua. So this is our filter block right now. So now we want the extensions list to the left and the buttons to the right. And to do that, we say we're going to display what is going to be display of what? Flex. So you see now they are side by side rather than stacked upon each other. The buttons are beside the extensions list, right? So we're going to apply the same thing we did earlier on in the first video for the header and justify content to be space between. Now see, take note of what will happen. This is not the look we are looking for. This is not what we are looking for, right? We want these buttons to be closely tied together like this at this edge, right? We want these buttons to be closely tied together at this edge. So to do that, we need to put them inside of a container. So I'll cut this off and create a container called filter buttons, because that's where all our filter buttons are, right? And paste our buttons that we cut earlier. So now take note of what happened just now. All the buttons are now on the right. Why? Because we have housed them inside of a container. So if I'm to do this, now this is pesticide. I'm sure you guys were introduced to pesticide in the class. So take note of this line here and take note of this line here. These are the two elements within this what? 1 and 2. The two elements within this filter block is this box and what? This box. This line you see here and this line you see here, right? So the space between pushed extensions list to the left and pushed this filter buttons block here to the what? Right, where all our buttons are inside. Okay, so just to make this clearer, let us target the H2 element inside of our filter block. So to do that, come here, we call on the filter block, and inside our filter block, we want to target the H2 element. And we're going to give this a background color of yellow. And then here, we want to target the filter block, which is, sorry, the filter buttons here, right? We want to target the filter buttons. So we're going to use filter buttons. And we're going to give it a background color of what? Yellow. Right here. Awesome. So this display flex is going to flex this space between, sorry, is going to spread out this filter, the H2 element inside our filter block and the filter what? Buttons, and put a space between them. So you can see this is the space I was talking about, right? So we have gotten the layout. Now we want to style the buttons and our extensions list to look more like this, right? So I noticed I've not given a font style. So for this project, I use the font style. Now I'm applying the font family here. And I'm going to use a font family of Lucida. Okay. Now, this font family inside of this asterisk means all the elements inside our body tag is going to take up that what? Font. Take note, the extensions list will take up the font. Okay, let's come here. So you see the extensions list is, oh, okay. So the extensions list took up the Lucida, DevLens, Lucida, this Lucida, everything within this page is going to take up what? The Lucida. That is why I used this asterisk. So font family Lucida sounds, and there we go. So going back to our project, moving on, we want to align these items to the center. You can see here, this extension list is obviously in the center of its container. All active, all of this, they are in the center of their what? Container. So how do we do that? Now, how we are going to do that is we are going to give each of these elements, this and this, let's give them a width. So I will give, so to type in multiple places, you are going to hold down the Alt key on your keyboard. So if you tap here, hold down the Alt and tap on the next line. So you can type in multiple places. So now we're going to give this a width of 200 pixels. Notice this is going to increase, and this is also going to increase by a bit. So what if we give it 250 pixels? What's it going to look like? Okay, awesome. Now, I want to control the flow of extensions list inside its container and the flow of these buttons inside their container, right? So I'm going to give each of them, I'm going to give these containers a height. I'm going to give them a height of what? 100%. So they will take up the height of 100%, which is this aqua, right? The filter, this filter block that contains all of them, right? This filter block contains all of them, has a height of 100 pixels, right? The filter block has a height of what? 100 pixels. Oh, just going to do this. It has a height of 100 pixels, right? And this is going to take up a height of 100%. So what this means is this extensions list is going to fill the height of filter block by giving it what? 100%. Okay, so that's that. So we'll go over to the styling. Now we are giving them 100%. We want to display extensions list to be in the middle, right? And we want to display these buttons to also be in the what? Middle. And how do we do that? Again, we are going to apply a display of flex. Okay, notice we applied the display of flex, and these buttons took the width, right? Because they are now displayed side by side, so they automatically take the width of their what? Element, of their parent element, sorry. So we want them to show up in the middle. We're going to use the align items to be at the what? Center. Can you see that? Now the buttons apply at the what? Center. The buttons are in the center. Extensions list is in the what? Center. Now extensions list looks okay. We now want to style. If we increase this, see the buttons they are not at the edge of our container. Meanwhile, in our project, they are what? At the edge of our what? Container. So how do we move these buttons from left to what? Right? Since the container is displayed as flex, we come over to the flex buttons here. The container is displayed as flex. We now need to align them horizontally. And to do that, we use the justify content, like I said earlier. But we're not going to use center because we do not want them in the center. We want them at the end of our what? Container, or at the end of their container. So to do that, we're going to use end, and it moves them to the end of the what? Container. So we have gotten our layout, as you can see. Right here is right here, and right here is right here. So that has been gotten. So now we want to style our button to look like what we have here. Okay. Now notice they all don't have the same width, right? So we are not going to apply any width to them. And when we do that, they are going to take up the width of the content that they have. So this button is small because ALL is just 3 letters. This button is longer because it has 6 letters, ACTIVE, right? And this is longer because it has 8 letters. So we want our buttons to take up the width of their content. But we also want a space around. And we said a space within an element is called the what? The padding. It's called the padding. So two things. We want to give them a padding and we want them to maintain their what? Their width. So we're not going to give them any width. Now let's do that. So take note of the changes here. So we're going to call this a class all filters. We call this class of active filter or active, and then we'll call this a class, sorry, we'll call this a class of inactive, and in here we're going to write our contents to be active, contents to be inactive, and all to be all. So see the changes taking place here. Now okay, let me go on and give the padding. All right, so we want to target all the buttons inside our filter buttons block. So access the filter buttons first, then access our button. Notice I used the tag element. This way it's going to apply to all the buttons inside our filter buttons block. So all the buttons inside this filter buttons block here is going to take up the styling that we're giving it. So now inside here, we're going to give it a padding, and we're going to use two values. The first value applies to the top and the bottom. The second value applies to the left and to the right of the buttons, right? So top and bottom, I want to give it 5 pixel. And left and right, we want to give it 10 pixel. So you see now it looks longer, right? So what if we make this, let me see, 10 pixel and 15 pixel. Great, I think we can make do with this, right? And then coming to our project, we can see that these buttons actually have a border radius, right? So we need to give them a border. Sorry about this. So we need to give them a border radius. To do that, we enter border radius. We're going to give a radius of 10 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, 10 pixels looks okay. You can style it according to what you prefer. It could be 15, it could be 20, right? If you are giving a border radius of 50%, it's going to form a round shape. So if you want to get a round shape, it's best to use 50%. But for this, we're going to go on with 10 pixels border radius. Now, if you notice, there is a border around our button, this black line, right? In our final project, we don't have a border, so we're going to take away those borders by specifying border to be 0 pixel, or you can say border to be what? None. So whichever works. Whichever one you prefer also works. So we want to give them a background of a background color of white. Exactly. So that's been done. If you come over to our project, you can see there's a space between the buttons here and here. There's a space between the buttons. Now, there's an extra property in CSS where we can declare a space between flex items, right? So all active and inactive are flex items inside of this container. So to put in that space, we're going to use gap. And what gap are we going to give it? Say 10 pixels. Can you see the space between them? So 10 pixels, I think that is okay. We can make do with this for now. 10 pixels. All right. So let's remove this background color. Remove this background color. Also going to remove the aqua. And okay, we already know that the container we're working with is taking up the space of the content, right? So our container doesn't have any background. So this is what we have. The header as well doesn't have any background. Great. So our project is coming along nicely and we are achieving this. Great. So we are achieving what? This right here. So moving on, we have been able to create this, the header. We have been able to create the header. We have, this is the header. We have also been able to create the filter block right here. Okay, so let me take this away. So I've been able to create these two sections of our project. Now we are going to create the what? The main section that houses all of our what? Cards. This section that houses all of our cards. So that will be done in the next video.